Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Saturday evening, September 13, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below, let me know what that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Taking a look at the U.S. National Hurricane Center 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook that just came out at 7:39 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is actually 6:39 p.m. Jamaica time. You still see that we have that code orange across the main development region, something that basically has a medium chance of development within the next 7 days. Right there, just to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands, right here, we can actually see some convection down in there. Nothing really organized right now, still trying to get its act together, as it's expected to push off towards the west northwest. And if we actually take a look back at what the Hurricane Center stated regarding this entity, they've stated a tropical wave located near the Cabo Verde Islands is producing a large area of disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity over the far eastern Atlantic. Dry and stable air will likely limit this system's development over the next few days, but a tropical depression could form by the middle to latter part of next week, while moving west-northwestward to northwestward at 10 to 15 miles per hour over the central tropical Atlantic. And we see that they've given the area a 0% chance of cyclone formation within the next 2 days and a 60% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. And looking back at what the supercomputer models are showing regarding this entity, we're looking as far out as the 168-hour mark. That's around Saturday, September 20. And this is where the Euro has the system, just to the northeast of the Caribbean. For reference, we see the eastern Caribbean right there. That's the Lesser Antilles into Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Jamaica. So we definitely see that the area that has all of the showers, the isobars, the red L that represents an area of low pressure, is just to the northeast of there, expected to definitely push off towards that direction, just like what the Hurricane Center states here, more so in a northwestward, if not a west-northwestward kind of track, missing the Caribbean entirely. So it's actually making sense that both models, not only the Euro but even the GFS, even although on this run the GFS is a bit slower, it's showing the same time period, Saturday, September 20 at 7 a.m. and we're seeing that the system is just to the east of where the Euro has it. For reference, we can see it right there. So the Euro has it closer to the northeastern Caribbean, the GFS a bit more to the east of where the Euro has it. Very interesting. Either way, both of them are showing that something should be developing, so it's only a matter of time before we finally have Gabrielle. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we're still watching that frontal system right there affecting the Bahamas off the southern Florida coastline. We have a tropical wave that is now in the Caribbean. It's right there still across the eastern Caribbean, and we can still see another tropical wave still in the middle of the main development region, and to the east of that tropical wave we have that tropical wave that the Hurricane Center is watching for medium chance of development. And we can see the ridge of high pressure right here to the north that we know is responsible for sending all of these tropical waves from east to west. Taking a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, we can make out some of these entities for sure. The clouds associated with the frontal system still affecting portion of Cuba into the Bahamas right there. A lot of the clouds off the east coast of the US. We can see the clouds associated with a tropical wave now bringing some thunderstorms to portions of the Lesser Antilles. I'm sure they're grateful for the rainfall. It's about time they had some decent rainfall down in there. Hopefully some of the moisture from this tropical wave makes it into the Jamaica area later this week. Well, later next week. It's Saturday now, so the work week begins on Monday and the week begins on Sunday. So next week we can also see the clouds associated with that other tropical wave across the main development region, and the clouds associated with that other one that the Hurricane Center is watching for possible development over the next 7 days. And we can clearly see all of these entities being steered from east to west, all courtesy of that ridge of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Saturday, September 13, 2025. It was stated that rainfall could have been in the forecast for parts of some eastern, central, and western parishes on Saturday afternoon. And we know that eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, and St. Andrew. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 1:46 p.m., the visible satellite image was posted not only here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but it was also posted on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there, as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we can see the clouds that are bringing overcast skies, if not some isolated thunder showers, to sections of some northern and western parishes at that time during the afternoon. Even had some convection across section of northern St. Andrew, western Portland, section of St. Mary, St. Anne. We definitely had some reports of some heavy rain in parts of St. Anne, section of Trelawney, St. James, Hanover into Westmoreland. Definitely gotten on some of the isolated thunder shower activity, and we can see it all even better on the visible satellite images right here of Jamaica before we lost sunlight. We can definitely see that low level, more so east southeasterly, if not southeasterly flow, and all of that air basically piling up across, yes, the eastern, central, and western ends of the island, but more so the northern and western ends of the island for sure. And we can see the convection even better, all of the blues into the greens, into the yellows, oranges, and reds that represent some cumulonimbus clouds, not to mention the sparkling white dots that we know represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes, especially across those spots right in there. Look at the thunderstorm that affected western Portland, northern St. Andrews, St. Mary, St. Anne into Trelawney, St. James, sections of Hanover, northern St. Elizabeth. Definitely gotten some amount of thunderstorms for sure. And we even have the Jamaican Doppler radar right here to confirm all of the greens into the yellows, into the oranges, and the reds across the very same spots that we saw the clouds for sure. The northern and western parishes got the brunt of today's rainfall. Nothing across the east or the south at all. And we have some confirmation of what took place here. The Little London camera in Westmoreland showing that it was definitely sunny. This was at around 12:46 p.m. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place across Westmoreland. It is a southern parish after all, even although it's in the west. Not really much took place over there, well, at that time. But did anything happen afterwards? Doesn't seem like it. Now we're at 15:16, that's 3:16, and the place is still bone dry. Nothing in the way of bad weather took place across this part of Westmoreland, or this part of the island at all. But regarding the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, this map does indeed paint quite the picture of how we might have had that rainfall today, especially across sections of some northern and western parishes. All of these purples into the blues, into the greens, into the yellows represents where we definitely had some amount of rainfall, just like where we saw the rainfall on the satellite imagery as well as on the Doppler radar imagery. We definitely have some comments coming in here from some of our followers on our social media platform. We have Sylvia stating lots of lightning and thunder and rain in Brownstown, St. Anne area about an hour ago. We have Davia stating light rain start to come where I'm at, and there was lightning and thunder before. We have Christina stating sun is blazing, hardly any clouds, mainly clear skies. I'm longing to experience good rainfall in St. Elizabeth. We have Latoya stating heater kill me. We have Lance stating sun hot. On our Instagram page, on the other hand, we had some comments coming in as well. Let's zoom in. So we have one Ryan _ stating, it's dark in Hanover with a little thunder so far. Did you end up getting rainfall, Ryan? Let me know. We have a Martina _ stating, it rain here West Rural St. Andrew. Thanks for confirming. Definitely can see some of the clouds in those spots as well. We have Peaches _ Cream stating, I'm at the beach and the rain is raining here. Can't do my beaching. I wonder what beach that was. Must be one of those on the north or the western sides. We have Jovan Pantan stating, Spanish Town sunny. Barbie _ KRP stating, look like it's going to rain. I wonder what parish that was. And that indeed confirms all of what took place from some of our followers. Alright, so let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website, the latest Jamaican Doppler radar imagery, the latest Cuban Doppler radar imagery, the latest Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar imagery, and the latest Cayman radar. We want to see exactly what's happening right now across the island. So the latest still image from the Weather Nerds website is showing 0035 UTC. Don't really see much of anything, just some high white, cirrus clouds across the western and northern ends of the island. Doubt there's any rainfall underneath these clouds, but we do see some clouds right here just to the north of St. James. We see some blues into the greens, maybe something out there. Let us see. Either way, that is what is taking place at 0035 UTC, which is actually 7:35 p.m. So that just came out, 5, 10, 15, 17 minutes ago, considering that it is 7:52 p.m. right now. The Jamaican Doppler radar is showing 0037Z, which is actually 7:37. And just like the infrared, we're not really seeing much of anything across the island. Don't be fooled by all of these green specks. Definitely not in the way of much rainfall or anything at all. But we can make out that rainfall out to sea to the north of St. James, definitely coinciding with that cloud that we saw right here on the infrared. The Cuban Doppler radar looks like it glitched out today at around 7:10 p.m. So that was this evening. That was around 6:10 p.m. Jamaica time. At that time, we definitely saw some rain bands to the north of St. James, definitely coinciding with that cloud that we saw to the north of St. James for sure. So this was what it looked like earlier, and this is what it looks like a bit, like 15 minutes ago. Regarding the Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar, we can actually make out some rain bands in the blues and greens just to the north of Guantanamo Bay. Not really seeing much of anything across much of southeastern Cuba or Haiti at all. We saw some isolated shores across the western peninsula of Haiti earlier, but definitely dissipated by the time of recording. Not even seeing much of rainfall at all across northeastern Jamaica. Regarding the Cayman radar, we can actually make out some rainfall to the north and to the west of there. Not really much of anything across western Jamaica, but we can actually make out the blues that represent that isolated shore to the north of St. James, like what we're seeing on the satellite as well as the Doppler. And regarding what's taking place right now, the live camera right here from See Jamaica's YouTube channel showing downtown Kingston. We can see that it is quite busy at this time. People walking about, going about their business, vendors still vending, nothing in the way of bad weather taking place, and that should be the order of the evening into the night. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we're at 28 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 27 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Sunday, temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 27 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Sunday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Sunday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in the grays and the yellows. That represents average to at least 1 degree Celsius above normal temperatures. I know the normal temperature for the month of September across Jamaica is around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 32.2 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 32.2 to 33.2 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on a Sunday. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat, since we didn't see any maintenance outage advisories from my JPS Online Twitter page. Hold on, let me confirm. Pretty sure that they didn't put out any maintenance outage advisories. Let me confirm. It is Sunday and it's not really a work day, so let us see. So it's gonna be Sunday, September 14, and there we have it. And nothing. All we're seeing is September 12. not really much of anything. And we usually highlight these maintenance outages from my JPS online Twitter page, because that one where power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in those areas, well, no areas at all are going to be affected by any power outages, so you're definitely good for sure for tomorrow. But we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. So if tomorrow is going to be a bit too hot for you, it states here that when you're outside, you should seek shade. Eat fresh. Try eating cold foods such as salads and fruit. Rest. Make sure you get enough sleep, and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak. Take a cool shower or a bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugary drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we're starting to see even more moist air. Look at all of the blues across the main development region, the Atlantic into the Western Caribbean, just some dry air right here across the waters to the south of Jamaica and Hispaniola. But it's definitely dwindling, and I like that. The more the dry air dwindles, the more the air moistens up, the more we have clouds to bring us rainfall. So clearly, the brunt of the dry air is right here across the northeastern portion of the North Atlantic. And we know the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable. So we just have a little more dry air to endure across the Caribbean into Jamaica. Hopefully, this tropical wave moistens up our environment and it stays that way for the rest of the hurricane season, or for the rest of the rainy season at that. Regarding the Saharan dust forecast, so we still are experiencing some slight hazy conditions. I'm sure you saw the slight hazy conditions in the atmosphere today and yesterday. But for the next 3 days, we're definitely going to be in the clear. Look, we're heading into September 14, September 15, and September 16. And clearly not really much of anything. All of the Saharan dust should be pushing just to the west of us as we head into tomorrow afternoon. And then we're heading back into the clear. Some Saharan dust, yes, is moving across the main development region, but it's nothing really that noteworthy. We know that the oranges into the pinks represents that vigorous plume of Saharan dust that can cause the very hazy skies, not to mention trigger some amount of respiratory illnesses in some persons. So we're indeed grateful that this is not much of anything at all. And the more it pushes towards the west, we know that it is dissipating. Regarding the wave forecast for tomorrow across the Caribbean, we're still seeing those light shades of blues to darker shades of blues. That represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height all the way up to 1, maybe up to 1.5 meter wave height. And that's because of the easterly, if not southeasterly flow of winds, averaging anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 knots at most. But regarding Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, to the north of Portland tomorrow 0.5 meter wave height, to the north of St. Anne 0.4 meter wave height, to the north of Hanover 0.3 meter wave height, to the south of Westmoreland 0.4 meter wave height, to the south of Clarendon 0.7 meter wave height, and to the south of St. Thomas 0.7 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. So yesterday we definitely saw the southeasterly flow, and we're still getting in on that kind of southeasterly flow that could definitely favor more of that rainfall on especially the northern and western sides of the island. So more rainfall for the north coast. Ryan, more rainfall for you in Hanover, St. James people, Hanover into, well, not Hanover, but Trelawney into St. Anne, Westmoreland, those areas, that's where all of the air is going to be piling up. That's where we have the least amount of winds. That's where we're going to be having those low level clouds becoming mid-level rain clouds, if not upper level cumulonimbus clouds for sure. Hold on, I think I have the wrong map showing here. Yeah, I definitely do. So this is for Sunday at 12 p.m. Hold on there. Let's skip over. Okay, now we have the Sunday at 1 p.m. So let's see what's really taking place now. So it's not a southeasterly flow tomorrow. It's an easterly flow. So we see the winds coming in like this. So it looks like it's not necessarily going to be across northern and western parishes that air is going to be piling up, but more so central and western parishes. So it was looking at Saturday. We're done with Saturday. Now we're looking at Sunday. So it looks like we could get some afternoon rainfall across some central and western parishes for sure. And if you know, you know. Some of these parishes, maybe St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, maybe St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney. We'll see. Not necessarily the northern and western parishes. And the upper level wind shear seems to be coming in from the west tomorrow. So if we actually get some thunderstorms to formulate Unlike today when the thunderstorms were pushing off towards the north, more of these thunderstorms, if they bubble up tomorrow, will be pushed off towards the east. Interesting. Very interesting day tomorrow. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both showing 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. And we're seeing the blues represent rainfall not necessarily concentrated across the north and west side at all, but definitely across the central and western parishes. And we know that Kingston and St. Andrew is shaded in the blues. And we know Kingston and St. Andrew is on our eastern parishes. But we know it's mainly across central and western parishes that are going to be getting in on some amount of rainfall. Look at the dark blues across section of Clarendon into Manchester and St. Elizabeth. Interesting. That's a high signal for rainfall. So look out if you're in Hanover, Westmoreland, St. James, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, Manchester, St. Anne, into Clarendon, maybe sections of St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, maybe southeastern St. Mirror, southwestern Portland, northwestern St. Thomas. We'll see it actually plays out. Clearly, it's definitely going to be mainly across some central and western parishes, with the exception of some western portions of some eastern parishes. So look out for that afternoon rainfall. Get that laundry done early. And even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps here from the Euro and the GFS are in agreement that it's going to be raining somewhere in Jamaica within the next 24 hours. We see the greens into the yellows. That represents anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall all the way up to 0.32 of an inch of rainfall on the Euro. The GFS going up to at least 0.26 of an inch of rainfall. It could be more than that, it could be less than that. We have to take these forecasts with a grain of salt for sure. And whatever happened, we'll definitely take it, because we're in the month of September. We're in our rainy season, or primary rainy season at that. And in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive close to 100 millimeters of rainfall. That's about 4 inches of rainfall. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive almost 7 inches of rainfall. So, you know, that's almost, let's say, 200 millimeters of rainfall. So somewhere down there, a bit above 150, if I'm not mistaken. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of September or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website will show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. We know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us, according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. So we're right here on Monday, September 15. So that's 12Z, which is actually 7 a.m. Across Jamaica, not really much of anything, but we do see some green dots here and there to the south of us. Then on a Monday afternoon, we see rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Monday morning, rainfall to the south of us. Monday afternoon, rainfall across mainly central and western parishes. What does the Euro show for Tuesday morning? On Tuesday morning, not really much of anything on the Euro. Tuesday afternoon, looks like some rainfall. It's across sections of some central and western parishes. What does the GFS show? On Tuesday morning, we're seeing some rainfall to the south of us across the far eastern end. Then on Tuesday afternoon, it looks like some rainfall is across sections of some central and western parishes once again. What does Wednesday morning show? Wednesday morning, we're seeing moisture to the south of us, to the north of us. Then on Wednesday afternoon, we're seeing moisture across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? On Wednesday morning, rainfall across the far eastern end of the island. Wednesday afternoon, rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. And we must highlight how greener the Caribbean is getting to show us that we're really moistening up in terms of the actual rainfall that we're going to be getting this week for sure. That's why we want more rainfall for sure, to keep water in our pipes, to cool down the temperatures, bring it on. What do we see on Thursday morning on the Euro? On Thursday morning, the Euro is showing not much of anything across Jamaica. Then on Thursday afternoon, we're seeing the greens represent rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Thursday morning, rainfall to the west of us across the water source south across the far eastern end. Then on Thursday afternoon, we're seeing rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. What do we see on Friday morning? Friday morning, we're seeing rainfall across the southern and eastern ends of the island. And then on Friday afternoon, look at that, we're seeing rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes, and we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Saturday, September 20. We see some rainfall to the east of us. We're also seeing future Gabrielle, as we mentioned, right here to the northeast of the Lesser Antilles. What does the GFS show for Friday into Saturday? Friday morning, rainfall looks to be surrounding us. It seems like some of the rainfall is touching the southern and eastern sides of the island as well. Then the GFS for Friday afternoon shows rainfall mainly across sections of some northern and western parishes, and we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours as well. So Saturday, September 20, showing some rainfall in the greens across the far eastern end of the island, and we're also seeing that system a bit more further from where the Euro had it to the northeast of the Caribbean, so it's more so to the east or east northeast of where the Euro has it. Very interesting. We'll see if we actually get Gabrielle to form. And regarding the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps for the next 7 days, both the Euro and the GFS models are still in agreement that there should be some amount of rainfall across the area, totaling anywhere from 2 all the way up to maybe 5 inches of rainfall, as you can see by the dark red into the purples and the pinks, across sections of the Greater Antilles, section of the Northern Bahamas into Florida, section of Central America into Northern South America for sure. Going to be getting on some of those rainfall totals that could trigger some amount of isolated flash flooding, and we clearly see that it's not only the GFS that's showing that, but the Euro as well. While other areas that are shaded in the greens, yellows, oranges, and reds should be getting in on at least an inch of rainfall or less. And regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until Saturday, September 20. And we see the greens into the yellows into the oranges on the GFS right here, even into the pinks. That represents a total of especially 93 millimeters of rainfall across the far western end. And the GFS is showing the greens into the yellows into the oranges. That represents a total of 67 millimeters of rainfall right here in the north. Very interesting times ahead for sure. We'll see it actually plays out, and whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted if God spares alive. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have that area that the hurricane center is watching right here to the southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. We have that tropical wave that's currently bringing some decent rainfall to portions of the Lesser Antilles as we speak. We'll have that frontal system off the east coast of the US still bringing some rainfall to portions of Cuba into the Bahamas. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar imagery down here near Puerto Rico, what's taking place in terms of rainfall? Not really much across Puerto Rico right now, but we do see some rain bands across Dominica associated with that tropical wave. And loading these Doppler radar images from earlier today, we saw some rainfall across the Dominican Republic, eastern, northern, and western Puerto Rico. Some rainfall right here to the south of the US and British Virgin Islands. And if we take a look at the Barbados radar, we're actually seeing some rain bands to the south of Barbados, to the east of Trinidad and Tobago, some rain bands that we saw in earlier. We saw them across Dominica. We're still seeing them on the Barbados radar. Some of this spilling into section of Martinique, southern St. Lucia getting in on some of the action as well. And regarding the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall across sections of northern Cuba, some rainfall as well across sections of Belize into northern Guatemala, the Yucatan section of Honduras into eastern Nicaragua as well, getting in on some amount of rainfall. And regarding where the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Sunday. And we can see the greens into the yellows into oranges and reds that represents an inch or less of rainfall within the next 24 hours for portions of Florida into the Bahamas, Cuba, sections of Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, sections of the Leeward Islands into the Windward Islands, so the US and British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, sections of Guyana into Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, sections of Guatemala, Belize into the Yucatan, getting in on some amount of rainfall within the next 24 hours for sure. And we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in agreement with this forecast. And we know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so regarding what's taking place here on the eastern Pacific side of things, so things are starting to really get active over here. We had Tropical storm Mario, which quickly and shockingly dissipated so fast. It was expected at first to become a hurricane, then suddenly just remaining a storm, and then all of a sudden, I guess it was just too close for comfort to Mexico with all of those mountains. So it definitely lost its intensity back down to nothing right now. We have a code yellow right here to the south of Hawaii, so something could become the next name in the Central Pacific. Interesting, but clearly it's going to be pushing westward, not really coming close to Hawaii. Let's see how it actually plays out. Things can change. We have a code orange right here to the west of Mexico, a code yellow right here to the south of Mexico. Let's see if we actually get some things to form. The infrared right here showing the clouds associated with that code yellow to the southeast of Hawaii. We have Hawaii right there. Definitely trying to get its act together. We see some decent convection. We also see some decent convection right in here across the waters to the south and to the west of Mexico regarding those other systems. Let's see if we actually get the next name on the list to form. The next name on the eastern Pacific side of things is Narda, then followed by Octave for sure. And regarding the Central Pacific, what was the next name in the Central Pacific again? The next name, I believe, is, if I'm not mistaken, Lala. If we didn't have Lala yet, then we have Moke. All of these weird names. I wonder if I'm butchering the names. Alright, so regarding what's taking place across the Western Pacific and the Indian Ocean, nothing across the Indian Ocean right now. We had a cyclone and it dissipated. We had a code red and it dissipated. We had a code yellow yesterday and it dissipated. Now we have a code yellow across the Philippines. Something that could become something later on. We see some thunderstorms right here across the Philippines. Not really much taking place across the Western Pacific at all. China, not really much of anything. Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, all of these areas chilling right now. Nothing formidable taking place. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.